Hi everyone, welcome back to the Babylon Irons. It's another day without football, another week without football for us, unless you're watching England. If you are, you're a better person than I am. But today we're not going to talk about England. We're going to talk about obviously West Ham, the current situation we're in. With us both in two tournaments at this point, being the Premier League and Europa League, Conference League, sorry. And it seems to be a bit of a debate at the moment, Frankie, really as to, well, it's Premier League survival. And it seems to be it's either Premier League survival or it's we go for the Conference League. What's kind of your take on this? Because it seems a bit divisive at the moment in the fan base.
I think it's kind of one of those things where I don't understand why it has to be one or the other. I think that's probably the main point I want to get from this debate. But yeah, I completely understand people saying like we need to prioritize the Premier League over the Europa Conference League. I also understand the other side of the argument of, well, what's the point if we're not going to win anything? This is our chance at silverware. How many more chances are we going to get at this in, our lifetime of supporting West Ham? So yeah, I completely get both sides of the argument. I'm just kind of at the point where why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't it be both?
Yeah, how do you feel as well? Because obviously there's been a lot of comments flying around and, people have called it, say, the Farmers' Cup or it's a pub competition. One of the comments we saw recently on here was that it's essentially the... I'm trying to think of the phrase now. Oh, yeah, sorry. It's the lowest form of European competition. And we should essentially not be interested. But do you find that those kind of thoughts sound quite arrogant from a team that's not won anything in almost 40 years? We are looking down on a competition that is UEFA backed. It's a UEFA backed competition. It has funding, it has backing. It's not reputable yet because maybe it doesn't have the longevity of Europa League and Europa Conference, Europa Champions League. But surely, for a team that's not won, I think, 40 years, the comments just seem a bit weird.
It's kind of it literally is just because it's a new competition. But like you look at its history, if you want to look at the history of the competition, Roma are the winners. They're not a bad team. They're a pretty well-established European outfit that have competed in, Champions League, Europa League multiple times before. So it shouldn't be, looked upon like that. It is a European trophy. Like as much as you kind of paint over it as something that it isn't, it is a European trophy. And, it will happen at each level. I mean, like it just depends on what kind of level you think your club's at. So a club like Arsenal, Man United, they'll also look at, say, the Europa League in a similar way as in comparison to the Champions League. And then, the further up you go, I saw it today on Twitter. People were saying that the Champions League is just a glorified competition, and the Premier League is the one to win. It really just depends on how people interpret it. But there's always going to be that discrepancy between the two. I just think for the level we're at, and people think we're at, they just kind of dislodge the Conference League. But look at where we are.
I feel that those arguments, or those people making those arguments, are those that haven't won a competition for a while. No, they're not going to win a certain other competition.
Yeah.
And it's all of a sudden, well, no, this one is more prestigious. It's because they're on the verge of winning or competing for it. Whereas the other one, well, it's just a cup competition. We never have a chance anyway. We get to the semis, quarterfinals. And so it's kind of essentially, it's a bit of a weird self-defense mechanism. It's belittling a competition because you don't have potentially the ability to win it. It's like saying the likes of Real Madrid, who've won the Champions League time and time again, that they look at it as a cup competition. No, they look at it as the absolute pinnacle. It's above La Liga because you are the best in Europe. And it seems odd to me as well.
I just think also with the Conference League, it's not like the prize is just a random cup, like a pre-season friendly one. You get into the Europa League. It's the same with winning the Europa League. Like you get into the Champions League. There's something attainable there to be got if we get through and win the competition.
Wasn't that the joy of the winning the cups, the domestic cups in England? Is you got into Europe, so that was the driver, not just that we get silverware. We get in Europe next year. Yeah. It seems weird that because it's the Conference League, it's it's.
What would you rather win? What would you rather win then out of the Conference League and the FA Cup? Because they both get Europa League football, for example. What do you think's a more, I don't know, better prized asset to have, the Europa Conference League or the FA Cup? Because I know what my answer is, but I want to see what you think.
I personally think the FA Cup started to dwindle in recent years. And I think what the FA Cup does bring for fans is domestic notoriety. It does have obviously a worldwide appeal, and it gives maybe a bigger day for fans because there's more tickets allocated. For instance, if we get the Europa League final, it's about a 20-odd thousand seat stadium, so we're probably going to get at the most maybe 5,000 tickets potentially. When you consider there's probably going to be about 10,000
corporate.
So both sets of fans probably going to get 5,000. So I can see how people can say, well, it's not that big a tournament. It's not as good, but I think winning a competition in Europe, it is a much bigger feather in the cap. You've only got to look at, say, Jose Mourinho, who has won absolutely everything. And bearing in mind the comments we've seen around people about this competition, a serial winner goes to Roma, who, to my knowledge, they might be wrong, but haven't won since their Scudetto in 1992, which had the absolutely fabulous Totti, favouriteest player like ever. But I digress. But they haven't won. They've never won a European title in all their years. They're a much bigger and prestigious club than us. No matter how we want to frame it, they are. There's no argument that a West Ham fan can put to say that they're a bigger club. We're a bigger club than Roma. And that was their first European competition. Not only were their fans besides themselves with winning it, Mourinho was in tears and in pieces. So to win that tournament when you have that level of prestige compared to us just shows what it is. And again, it's Europa League conference. And I think coming in as a champion of Europe into a European competition, I think is better than coming in as the FA Cup winners of England.
Yeah.
Because arguably you had to achieve the year before to get into that European competition. You then achieved again to go into the next level of competition. And you look at the likes of Villarreal, right? They haven't won like a Copa del Rey thing like forever. They're not going to win La Liga. Like us, they've kind of struggled in the league, which has happened to quite a few clubs actually in Europa Conference, Europa League this season across Europe.
Yeah.
But they've won a Europa League title. They've had great runs in the Champions League. So, it's that you win that little piece, you go and develop, you can go and buy players and so on. It does sometimes mean players then get pipped and so on. But ultimately, winning those European competitions has much greater gravitas across Europe to European players than it does winning in a domestic cup. Unless you're winning your own league, and I feel that's quite derisory to the FA Cup because I love the FA Cup. I do think it's diminished over the years because of there's been less upsets and maybe less underdogs in the final or less, smaller clubs in the final competing for it. But I think it maybe has lost its kind of its bluster because it's just become quite, I think, stale in the sense of it always seems to be the same team. So that's where I am. I think if I was presented with you can win the FA Cup or that, I think I'd probably say, look, I've had a day at Wembley in the Championship player final. It sounds stupid, but I've had a day at Wembley. Would I rather have a day in Europe celebrating somewhere abroad, West Ham winning a European trophy? Hell yeah, I would probably take that above winning a domestic cup. And I know that maybe sound odd to some people, but it's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think if the debate was League Cup or Conference League, it would be no debate just because of the prize you get for Conference League. But I think, because FA Cup and Europe Conference League get the same thing. So it's kind of difficult to split. But you just got to look at the pool we have when we have European football. Like even this season, we went into it knowing we only have Conference League. And look at the players we were still able to attract just because of that European pedigree, Scamacca, Aguerd, Paqueta, all of these players probably wouldn't have come if we didn't have European football, in my opinion. So it is there. And, like we said, we do go back into the Europa League if we win this competition. How difficult it is to get into the Europa League. You have to finish 6th or above in the Premier League to have that. Like, that is everything we've wanted to achieve since, since the move to the stadium, really. That's what the goal has been. I know, David Gold, David Sullivan, they made comments about being Champions League in 5 years from the move. But, we all kind of understood that maybe that was a reality at some point, but more likely it would be Europa League football. And I mean, we even went into that season with European football as well. based on the I think it was having the least yellow cards or something, wasn't it? So
yeah. So it was our fair play record was incredibly good. I think we just finished outside of it with Bilic, didn't we? In the end, because we tailed off towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think we finished 7th, and I think
United beat us by like a point or something. I think in the end to Europa League, but we qualified qualified for the qualifiers.
Yeah,
due to our fair play.
Yeah, I just think with Conference League, like, people need to. I think if we ask this question when we're in the semi final, right, people would not be saying the things they're saying about the competition being a Farmers Cup or whatever. Bro, this is an actual European trophy, that gets you into European football again next season. We are not in a position where we're kind of around 6th already. We've pretty much got Europa League for next season, so maybe people are saying, okay, it's not as glorified as what it should be, but we are very close to relegation, actually in the relegation zone. So getting European football this season, this is our only way to do it. We can't do it through the domestic competition like we have in the past couple of years. We have to do it this way. So I don't understand people saying that they don't want to win it, like that, or that it's just kind of a tin pot trophy. I don't really understand that. It's just because it's new. I think that is really what it is. It's just because it's a new competition.
Yeah, and I think obviously I can understand the debate when it's, Premier League safety or Conference League. You have to pick for your bread and butter, which is the Premier League, because if we don't have the Premier League, it probably has a knock-on effect to quite a few other things, and the other things that we want to see, such as our incumbent board leaving. For example, I don't think that happens if we get relegated. If we stay in the Premier League, they go. So if you was to tell me you're not going to win Europa Conference, but you are going to stay up in the Premier League and you're going to get a new board who are going to look to invest in, things that they haven't done, then obviously I'm going to take that route.
Yeah.
But we can't live in that what if situation. And I think at the moment we're in 2 competitions. Ultimately, I think we're going to have to try and limp to the end in the Premier League, because I think that's quite frankly where we are. We're in that state. I think Moyes has got enough about the players in which to at least get through the next round of Europa Conference. AZ or I can't remember the other team that they're playing.
Anderlecht, isn't it?
Anderlecht, yeah, exactly. So, Alkmaar are going to be more difficult of the 2 in that round. But again, we should, in theory, beat Alkmaar. We should, in theory, beat Anderlecht, because we've already done them twice in the competition should they get there. So we discussed it before. Our route to that final is preferable. So as long as we can get, 3 positive results throughout that time and maybe a draw, then I think there's no reason why we should not get that with the teams that we've got to go against. That's not being arrogant or overly confident. It's just, as a Premier League football club with the money we have, we should be.
I think with the debate around kind of Premier League safety or Conference League, I know that it's kind of pick one if you have to. I know what you were saying about if you gave me Conference League or Premier League safety and investment from new owners, then it's a kind of a different thing. But I kind of understand where people are coming from, where they'd rather just win the Conference League regardless of whether we stay up, just because what are we staying up for if it's just the same thing over and over again, other than being a Premier League team with the revenue? Like, it's, as a fan, like objectively looking at it as a fan, you're winning a European trophy that you will remember that moment for the rest of your life. You're not going to remember every time we've played Bournemouth away in the Premier League, like, if we're not doing anything with it.
No, it'll be a complete season of bitter and sweet.
Yeah,
you can't enjoy the sweet without the bitter. So, if we did get relegated, it'll be horrible to be relegated. But you have to say that if we were to somehow stay up and limp to the end, which I think is going to what it will be, we'll limp to the end. I would love to see us win a cup. It's at the end of the day, winning a cup will be something we have craved as a fan base for a long time. And yes, if we were relegated and won the cup going into Europa, players are not likely to hang around.
Yeah,
maybe they will. You don't know, because it's still, I'm in Europa Conference. Yes, I'm playing Championship, but still maybe I can play. Still going to. I don't think I will. But again, you just don't know. You don't know what will happen if you're taken over and someone goes, I'm just going to pay these players wages. They've got a contract. They're going to play. I'm going to pay their wages. we're going to eat up the cost this season, and next year we're going to go again.
Yeah.
So, and obviously the massive complication is the number of games you have. you play essentially Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Thursday kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the Championship. So that would change. It would be interesting to see how they manage that schedule with a team if they had essentially European football and the Championship, because it would be.
I don't think that would ever happen. But like, so for example, right? If I was to ask you this just off the bat, what do you think you would be more like happy, have a happier feeling from if we survived on the last day, or we won the Conference League final? What do you think would give you more fulfillment and happiness and joy? Which of those two scenarios?
Winning. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
Staying up on the last day is just going to be relief. That is it. You're literally just going to go and breathe. Like, it's not going to be. I'm not going to celebrate like we won a cup. I'm just going to be like, well, fuck, that season's over. That is going to be my reaction. I'm going to go home and be like, dear God, what a poor season.
Just look at this comment from Claw. I mean, he said, if relegated, we are doomed. Forget the paper cup. I want Premier League. Can you just explain what the paper cup means? Because can you give me like actual reasoning for what the paper cup is and why it's a paper cup? Because Villarreal are winning this season. It's
a lip service cup. It's a cup in which to make more revenue for UEFA, in which they can get lower league teams in, such like the Nations League. It's the same argument we see all the time. It's just derogatory, really. Look, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Not having a popular call. I just find it completely irrational. Yes, we want the Premier League, but if we don't get the Premier League, then we potentially are still in the same position as we would be if we didn't have the Premier League. We're still going to have players going, I want to go. Because arguably, if anyone keeps on Moyes and we don't have European football, those players are not going to want to stay. So it's pretty much the same as getting relegated, because Rice is already going, basically. The likes of Scamacca are really going to look around and go, I don't want to play for this manager. Paqueta isn't going to really want to play for him. Souček already is into his final season next year. Was denied a contract by Moyes. Soufal, I think, has a contract extension for 2 years. But again, so he really want to give Moyes the last 2 seasons. He's already said previously that for him, he likes to take risks. Moyes isn't that manager. So the rebuild we've had to do this summer has to happen next year. So all those going, it's the transitional season this season, completely are just doing that. They're completely ignoring the fact that what next season is going to be is exactly the same.
What do you think about this then? Moyes doesn't have the quality to get us back to the Prem if we go down. Do you think if we did go down and Moyes stayed, do you think he'd be able to bounce back up with us?
No. To be honest, if you look at the moment, the teams that have done well, it's teams that are trying to play football in the Championship. So look at the likes of Wilder went down with Sheffield United. Had struggled in the first season, didn't get back. He got sacked. He went to Borough. Kind of tried to play the same thing he did. Worked to right for his first kind of season there, and then it all fell to pieces. They've then started playing football under Carrick, storming up the league. Sheffield United also playing some decent football. They're in the qualification. They're in the automatic promotions. Company has absolutely changed Burnley. Again, playing football, possession-based football, good style, good football. The Championship's not about just guts and bluster and, just tearing around for 90 minutes. It's not about that.
Do you think it could help Moyes trying to transition into more possession-based? Because he struggled to do it this season in the Premier League. Do you think he'd have an easier time of it in the Championship, even if the players we had were lower level of quality? Or do you think it actually might be harder?
I just don't think he has the quality, in all honesty. As I said, I think he's possibly a decent manager or a good manager. I don't think he's a good coach. Problem is, in the Championship, you have less time to prepare because you're playing every other day. So essentially, you play, probably have 1 and a bit training sessions in a week, and the rest of it is recovery because of the travel and art after the game. So I just don't see, and I don't actually see Moyes' own self wanting to front up and take the team back up. He didn't do it at Sunderland. What makes people think he's going to do it here?
I mean, David said it here. Do you want to end up like Sunderland? It's got to be Premier League. So I do understand the point.
I just say jinx right then.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's kind of it's a really tough situation because if we were mid-table right now, I don't think anyone would be being very degrading to the Conference League at all. I think people would be really excited by it. It's just because
people saying, let's go out for it, let's go get a win for that competition. Let's win it. Let's have that.
Let's focus on that instead. Yeah, but because of the situation we're in, it's just so tight, and just the financial benefits of being in the Premier League and how difficult it's getting to get back into the Premier League if you go down. I mean, look at Watford this season. They've had 2 or 3 managers now, and they've still kept most of their good players. They only lost Dennis. They kept Sarr. They kept João Pedro. They signed some good players, and they're struggling. They're not even in the playoffs right now. So I do understand that point where once you go down, it is still very difficult to then come back up again. Yeah. But also, just like for your own satisfaction as a fan, would you rather just have the trophy over Premier League each season? I don't agree with that, but it's just the other argument.
Yeah, I understand it. Like personally, kind of the way I look at it at the moment is staying up in the Premier League shouldn't be seen as like a trophy, and it seems to be being placed as that at the moment. If we stay in the Premier League, I understand the implications of not staying up. The implications of us going down are awful. Yeah. And if we don't come out first time of trying, we are in a dire straits. And I mean dire straits because of the current ownership that we have. They don't have the cash flow to support it. They don't have the gumption to do it. They don't have the business nous in which to put the club on the right keel. If they did have the nous in which to make the club a success, they would have done it already. They haven't. Things like the naming rights, which we'll go in tomorrow. We're going to do a video and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Things like that would have been resolved, and they would have got things working with LLDC. No, their interest is selling the club. Always has been. It's getting to staying in the Premier League, keeping their heads just above water. If there's any success along the way, awesome. If not, we'll just ride it out. Always been it. And if you go down with Moyes, what are you actually changing? Nothing as a mood is going to change in that club. You're going to get players out. You've still got the same manager who comes in with the stigma of taking the team down after spending 180 million. He's going to ship a bunch of players out, and then he's expected to rebuild, which he's just shown in the last season. He was unable to rebuild a team to compete in the Premier League and to win a European trophy. You're then going to entrust him again to rebuild in the summer, in which to get you straight back up into the Premier League. And his contract's up at the end of that season. So if he got us up, they'd have to renegotiate with him anyway. And then you're going to have to, again, he's then going to have to build that team into a Premier League team. You know, as we saw with Burnley, absolutely phenomenal. And I mean phenomenal in the Championship. Come up against Premier League team, and obviously this is Man City, so they are an exception. And Haaland is back into the most ridiculous form, but 6 goals they conceded, and that is a good team in a very good team in the Championship who's running away with it. And you're just like, it's just a different thing. I don't know if I could not trust Moyes if he took us down to rebuild the team, to get us playing confident, good football, to bring us back up, and then to be given another contract in which to keep us up the following season. It just makes no sense. I think the hope is, and I think it's hope, he limps us to the end of the season. A bit like the year where we just stayed up by like 1 point with Villa. I think that's what they expect to happen, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll make a decision after that, but he cannot stay past this year. And anyone telling me it's just a transitional year this year, next year be different, take the blinkers off and have a look at what's actually potentially happening next year in terms of the players that are leaving, players that are contract, players that are coming to the end of contracts, and then tell me, oh, next season's not going to be transitional either, and there's not players looking to leave. Because if you believe that, please give me the drink, the drugs, whatever it is you're having, because it must be amazing to live with that kind of buzz around you.
I mean, we got a comment here from E20 Zone. Nice to see you, mate. Moyes needs to go, but it's not on him. And he also said that some of the players have been awful, which is completely agree with that. It isn't all on Moyes. There is deeper issues at this football club, and the players do have to take responsibility for what they've done this season as well. But, a lot of it does come from the coaching and the setup and the failure to integrate the players that he's brought in the summer and adapt to possession-based football, which players like Scamacca, Paqueta would thrive in. So, again, another comment from Sehel here. The problem with Moyes staying at West Ham, either way is clear. So many players would want to leave. And, that is true. Players don't look like they want to play under Moyes right now. Look at someone like Pablo Fornals, probably the happiest player we've had at West Ham in recent years. And he looks just miserable. He just looks down. And it's because he's been
put out a tweet, wasn't it? Or I think it's on his Instagram. Don't let people take away your smile. With him in his West Ham kit in the stadium on the pitch, and you're like, if that's not a slightly barbed message, then I don't know what is. It's someone deliberately stating, someone's trying to take my smile away from me and essentially take away my joy, which is football and playing in front of these fans.
Exactly, yeah. That's the whole point of. It's not just Fornals. It's been the case with a few players that have come out this season. They just don't look happy. I mean, Lanzini, another one that hasn't played, which is again just not a good sign of what's happening behind the scenes. But yeah, I think overall, Premier League safety obviously is the key. Just because from a business point of view, it's just football has become so much more business oriented now that staying in the Premier League is seen as a bigger prize than winning the Europa Conference League, which is sad because 30 years ago, if it was between winning a European Cup and going down, a lot of people, I feel like, would probably be pointing towards the European trophy.
When we were playing in the Intertoto Cup do you want to win the Intertoto Cup because you can get in and be like, yeah, look, it's a donkeys kind of league and it's a terrible little competition, but they'd be like, bloody hell, of course, yeah, I want to play in Europe next season. Yeah, give me it. The fact of the matter is, the same people who are turning around who are being derogatory towards competition will no doubt celebrate. And if they don't, kudos to you for actually having the conviction to stand behind your words. Because if you celebrate the win, you're just a hypocrite. It's like that's an actual, just genuine. It is that if you're willing to celebrate the success of the club, if they were to win that competition after deriding it, you're just showing what a hypocrite you are, and you're not even been able to stand up for your own conviction. If you really is a paper competition, when West Ham win, if they win, sorry, not when we win, if we
win.
if we win it, I don't want to see those people turning around going, oh, I'm so proud of West Ham. Well done. We've won a cup. We're in Europe next year. Why? You didn't care. You didn't care. You said it was a Mickey Mouse competition. It's, as I've said here, a paper competition is any derogatory term you want to give it. But if you're going to be derogatory towards competition, if we win it, you can't then really share in the success because you've just shown that actually you're not a person of your own conviction, really. You either support the team in their competition and want them to win it, or you just basically want to just turn around and go, well, we're being successful, but it's only because it's Mickey Mouse. It's always like putting up an obstacle to say that any kind of thing that you're doing well isn't good enough. You know, and I've seen people saying that we should be trying to push for the Champions League and not even the Europa League, and it's just laughable. Like, look at the teams above us, and we're saying push Champions League. I know we've been close, but those teams have also dropped off in those last couple of years, and Arsenal have come flying back into it. Other teams are going to improve as well over the course of next season. So I think we just need to remember what we've done in the last 20, 30 years, and we haven't won anything. Yeah. And to win something will give us something as fans to hang on to.
Yeah.
And something to actually be pleased about for once, rather than sitting there going, God, that season's over. That was another tough slog, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just worry that even like, say, we've got Ghent next in the Conference League. If we go out of that, how is that going to affect the players' confidence in the league as well? Because it's a game, it's a tie. Sorry, not a game. The two-legged tie, which we're expected to go through on. You know, we are the stronger team. We have the better players. It's two legs. We should be going through. So if we don't, and then we have to go and play, you know, Arsenal at home before the second leg, and also I think it's Brentford away at some point as well. It's going to shatter their confidence a bit.
No, sometimes, you know, a break is as good as a rest kind of thing, you know, or like, well, you know, a game in this competition could be as good as, you know, having a rest, for instance. I know people say about travel and all that the team has to do, but if you're winning in another competition, at least keep that confidence that we can pick up a win somewhere. We've done it in the competition. We're still going here. Maybe we can. Obviously, we have seen the case where that hasn't been, like Wigan years gone by when they won the FA Cup, but you know,
also got relegated season in the second half.
But look at it this way: those Wigan fans, if you'd have turned around and said, say, up in the Premier League or relegation, if it was just that conversation, not obviously what's happened since where they've been relegated before and come back to Championship and have had all of their problems, they probably still would have said, yeah, I'll take a cup. I've never seen us win a cup.
I think that's the danger people are kind of worried about with relegation. It's becoming a Sunderland, it's becoming a Wigan where, yeah, you might win something like Wigan, but look at the next 10 to 12 years, you're going to really struggle, could even go down to League One. And, it's a completely different ballgame then.
Yeah, and then another way to look at it is, well, it could be a next Newcastle in terms of you could then stay up, be in a European competition and have multi-billionaire owners come in and buy David Gold's share from his family, take David Sullivan's share, go and talk with the LLDC and ride off into the sunset next season. You could, because that penalty clause is gone. So it's always, well, what if, and we're going to what if we get relegated? It's all of this, and we could be that team. Yeah, we could be. We could completely flip, and then we could be a team that attracts a big money investor because we've had 3 seasons in European competition. We've just won a European trophy. Do you think an American trying to buy the club is going to care that it's the lowest denominator of the Europa Conference or Europa competition? No. US investors are going to turn and go, I'm buying a club who's won a European trophy. This is what I mean. It's winning. It's some sort of prestige. We may not give it much validity because of we look at competitions with history and give them gravitas, and this doesn't have that.
Yeah.
But from an outsider looking to invest, you go, yeah, they had a shocking season in the league, but I'm going to bring in a new manager. I'm going to change other things within the club to boost the atmosphere. I'm going to ride on the coattails of the team of the club winning the trophy, and I'm going to try to push it on. You just look at Newcastle where they got bought in in basically what they were in relegation scraps before. Howell managed to take them through. Look at them now. It's as easy to talk about what could happen in a negative light, but everything can change when you change the atmosphere in the club.
I think from my perspective, it is like, okay, like, yes, staying in the Premier League is so much better than being in a Championship or League One for most fans. I get that because you're playing higher quality teams, your team is better quality. But like, think about it this way: what are we trying to do when we're in the Premier League? It's to qualify for Europe, right? It's to qualify for European football and have these European moments that we need to not take for granted. We don't know how many times this is going to happen in our lifetime.
And this is an unfortunate truth.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you say, man, we don't know when it's going to come in our lifetime again.
Yeah.
When was the last time we were anywhere near a final? Obviously, going past last year where we got close, but besides that, when was it? The thing that's known as the Gerrard final, we played a huge part in that final, but it's known as the Gerrard final.
Yeah.
So it's when we're going to see it in our lifetime. Some people haven't seen us in a final. Not a lot of us haven't seen West Ham ever win anything. Was it 81 the last time we won anything? So
yeah, 80, yeah.
You just got to kind of look at it and go, the trophy gets us there. I don't think you have to have one without the other, in my opinion. I think
that's the main thing. It's not. We shouldn't sacrifice Premier League survival for the Conference League. I'm not saying do that, but I'm saying in the long term, if you look at it, if we do somehow go down, which I don't think we will, but if we do somehow go down and we've won that Conference League, you're going to have that moment of winning a European trophy for the rest of your life. Like, we've already experienced relegation. We could experience another playoff final that was probably one of the most joyous moments of a West Ham fan's life in the last, 10, 20 years. Winning that playoff final was probably up there for most fans, just that moment. So we can talk about things. We can talk about the longevity of being in the Premier League. But when you look back on your lifetime as a fan of West Ham, it will be the moments that you remember. Those moments against Seville, those moments against Lyon away, those moments where you thought, oh my God, like, that was special. And the playoff final was, at that time, special. Winning in the last minute of a playoff final was incredible for us at that point. We went up to the Premier League. So you have to kind of take a step back and think, okay, we are in the quarterfinal of a European competition right now. We are 4 games away from a final, and it's against teams that we can do it against, and then we've just got the final to get past. So don't look at it in such a bad negative way. Like, it is a European competition that has been won by Roma, that has been celebrated by Roma, their fans, Mourinho, all of them last season for how good it was of a moment. So just try and embrace the moment and don't worry too much about, oh, it's this, it's that. I just think social media at the moment is making it that way. And, Twitter especially, there'll be a lot of people out there, those keyboard warriors or whatever you want to call them that will call it that Mickey Mouse competition just because of, just that's how it is. That's how social media is right now.
And do you know what? I think this is the comment to end on, and I don't think we need to say much on this, but yeah, I absolutely agree. I hope the conference brings the squad together with those players on the edge getting minutes. The likes of Lanzini is now being talked about by Moyes in terms of being a key player now because he's done well in the last 2 games. Again, that stupidity from Moyes to have not lent on him at any other point in the season, but the fact that he's all of a sudden started using elements of his squad and seeing them play, and he's starting to go, oh, these guys might give me a chance in the league. So it's just as simple as that. We've just got to hope that this now means that the players on the fringes start to feel more inclusive, start being more part of it. It brings the team together, and it maybe makes them all start to fight for one another and actually then move forward. And as I say, I'm happy to see us limp on. I say happy. I can deal with us limping on to the end of the season and just staying up, saying 17th.
Yeah.
But I still have the expectation that we have to go all out to win the Europa Conference. If you're in a tournament or in a competition, until it is impossible to do so, you have to play to win it.
I mean, what Iman said here as well, like it's you've got to remember, like it doesn't have history at this point, but neither did the FA Cup, neither did the Champions League, neither did the Europa League, and even what we said here, we'd be the first British team to do it. And from my perspective, I've never seen us win a trophy other than the playoff final. I wasn't alive for the 1980 FA Cup final. I wasn't alive. Yeah, so there may be fans out there that have experienced that, but I haven't. And winning a European trophy, watching West Ham and watching majority of the time how crap we've been would be just brilliant. It would be a brilliant moment as a fan. So yeah, that's my take on it. I don't think we should sacrifice the Premier League for it, but winning it is not, it's not being made out to what it should be by West Ham fans, and that is a European trophy of pedigree. It might not have the history, but it's still got the pedigree because we'll be in Europa League next season as well. And we'd have had a European trophy that we can look back on in 10, 20, 30 years when you're thinking about moments as a West Ham fan. And that will be one of your moments that you absolutely remember. So
and ultimately, you don't remember the season. You remember what you won in most cases.
Yeah.
And if we look back on that trophy in 20 years, we're going to see a history of winners, probably some large names or names that have gone on to be big things. And you're going to be looking at going, yeah, we were the second ever team to win that competition. We did well that year. We went for a whole group stage without losing a game. Even got all the way through to certain, wherever we are now. We was one of the leading goal scorers. We hardly conceded. You're going to talk about all of those things. You're not going to say, the Premier League season was a bit rough. We finished quite low, but what a tournament it was for us.
Yeah.
And if we did win it, you'd then be like, it's the first trophy I got to see West Ham win as a fan. And like you say, it's moments. We still talk about Payet. Obviously, what happened and how it ended was bad, but we talk about Payet as if that was a cup. Yeah. we celebrated his goals at the World Cup for France as if they were goals for West Ham. It's
bloody Slaven Bilic on the table of the punditry.
Like you say, it's moments. That's what football's about. And rather than trying to be negative and derogatory, maybe just concentrate on the moment and
enjoy it.
Yeah, just embrace what could be something positive in what is otherwise a terrible season at this point.
Yeah.
And I will endure a 17th place finish to just have a small moment where I can say, I saw West Ham win a cup. And no matter what any other fan says, no matter what any club kind of does, where it's a Mickey Mouse Cup, especially if it's like the white half of North London, you can just turn around and go, show us your trophies. And they have nothing to say to it other than, oh, you're going to get your Aldi Cup out. It's just that. It's at the end of the day, you can look back, it's a trophy, a legitimate European trophy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is the main point. We've been through it all. Whether it's Premier League safety or Conference League, I understand both people's arguments for that. My point of view is it shouldn't have to be both right now. Don't look at it as both. And Iman here again. He remembers every year that we've won the cup. Can't remember every year we've been relegated. So I'll always take a cup win, even if it meant relegation. That might be right. Looking back, for me personally, in 50 years' time, I'm probably not going to remember all of those lows. You're going to remember the high moments, you know, more so than those low moments. So yes, we are in a delicate position in the league right now, and we need to be very serious in that matter. You know, we are 18th, and it should be, I feel like it should be the priority to stay in the league, like regardless of what we're doing with the Conference League. But we should be good enough to do both. You know, we should be okay, like to play again twice in April and still be able to perform against the likes of Southampton at home before that. Yes, we have Arsenal between the first and second leg, but doesn't mean we can't rotate. You know, we've got the players to rotate. It's not like last year in the Europa League where we just have to play the same players every week. We've got enough rotation in the squad to be able to go through in Europe and, you know, focus on the Premier League as well and mix and match as well. So yeah, that's my take on it. And yeah, I just hope we stay up, and winning the European trophy would just be absolutely incredible. And I don't understand people saying that it's not, you know, an established trophy or it shouldn't be noted as one. So yeah, that's my final thought on that anyway.
No, yeah, I think that's fair. You know, everyone's entitled to opinion. I always respect people's opinion. I might not necessarily agree with it. I might be forthright against your opinion, but I always respect people's opinions if they don't agree with ours. But yeah, as you said, it's about those brilliant moments. And if we win the trophy, it could be one of those moments. And in years to go by, it may be a bittersweet moment where we celebrate the most West Ham of West Ham seasons, in that we got relegated and won a cup. Would be the most West Ham. We'll probably look back at that with our typical gallows humour that we have in years to come in the future. But ultimately, we may also see some positives out of it. We may actually see that this season brings a new dawn because we keep getting to Europe again. It means that we stay in the Premier League potentially. If we do that, that may bring about new owners, new direction, new future for the club. So here's to hoping. I'm going to try and be positive for the rest of the season. I haven't been positive for most of this season, but I think, you know, as a fan base, we have to try as much as we can do that. But, you know, everyone, thanks for watching. Whether you agree, whether you don't agree, that's fine. You know, respect your opinions completely. But obviously, guys, if you've liked the video, please do like. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. We're slowly edging our way to 500, which is an important milestone for us.
Yeah.
So we would love to get there, you know, within the next few months, really. Hopefully before the end of the season. And hopefully before the end of the season, we have something to celebrate along with hitting that number. But again, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. It's really great to have you guys engaged. And yeah, we'll see you all soon. But in the meantime, Frankie, there's only one more thing to do, and that is come on, you irons.